Welcome, everybody, to Blue Collar Startup, the podcast where hard work meets big ideas. This is your home for real talk, real stories, and real strategies from the front lines of life in the business of the trades. I'm your host today, Derek from Daigle Cleaning Systems. Mike is tied up with a few things today, so I'm going to cover our interview here, and we're super excited to have one of our first guests back, actually, from roughly 4 years ago. It's hard to believe, but super excited, and we'll let Josh introduce himself here in a moment. But wanted to take a second and remind everybody of our new episode formats and some of the different programs that we have here running on the show. Today is an example of our interviews from the field, where we bring on folks in the blue collar trades, support businesses, or folks who are current trades workers, and let them share their story, tell how they began their journey and where they are now. We also started a new format, which will actually have our first episode here airing in a couple of weeks, around women in the trades, where we bring on some of the hardworking women in and around the blue collar trades, allow them to share their story and talk about their journey. Our Catamount Roundtable, which is a lot about self-improvement and business development and safety. So we bring those guys on, Scott, Stacy, and Jason. We're super grateful to have them as big supporters of the show. And they volunteer their time to come on and give everybody some good information. And then finally, our Let's Ask Bill, or our lab episodes, where Bill Tanzi from the OpEx shop comes on, talks about a number of things in regards to business ownership and process development, culture. Very, very informative. He is very, very good at what he does. And the first couple episodes that we've shot with him have been absolutely fantastic. So I encourage everybody, if you haven't listened to a Let's Ask Bill episode, please do. A lot of good information in there. And as a final reminder, we have our Patreon side of the podcast. This is a separate segment towards the end of the show where we'll ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions that is not part of the original content. It's a whopping $5 a month. So if you could spare that and help us help support the show, we greatly appreciate it. And as always, I want to thank our sponsors for supporting what we're doing and allowing us to do what we do here on the show, cover some of our production costs, as well as give back to some of the trade schools and support some of the students that are out there with our scholarship programs. Our current sponsors are People Ease, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Michaels Group, Catamount Consulting, the Northeast Construction Trades Workforce Coalition, my team over at Daigle Cleaning Systems, Mike's team over at Five Towers Media, and Curtis Lumber, who just joined us very recently. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Now to our guest of the hour, Josh. How's it going?
Hey, Derek, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well.
With the mouthful that you had there prior to the last time I was here.
It's I've been practicing. Yeah, you're right. It has it's definitely grown a little bit, which we're very grateful for, and lucky to be able to do this. And thanks for joining us today.
Hey, you're welcome.
So, as I mentioned, you were on in 2022, and I know we reconnected recently, and you've grown quite a bit on your journey. So why don't you walk our listeners through, kind of your path and how you got into your business, what you do today, and um, some of the challenges that come along with it.
Sure. Started out at a very young age, just being interested in cars. My family had a lot of involvement in the automotive field and mechanical. So growing up, my dad had a lot of cars at the house and would tinker with things and was into them himself. So from an early age, I kind of got the spark to be involved with automotive fixing and painting and, touching up things, making them look better, brighter. So I guess from an early age, prior to high school, even, I've had an interest in cars, and then pursued that after high school with going to Hudson Valley.
The Blue Collar College.
Yeah, it is. So I did the Hudson Valley program, 2-year program. The first year when I went was whether you were going to be an automotive mechanic or in the auto body trade. Back then, it was the same program. Today, it's changed. But the first year, we were rebuilding engines, rebuilding transmissions, and I quickly found that that wasn't my interest. So I shifted the second year to the auto body program. That's where I kind of fell in love with the transformation of things. I think what I like most about this business and the industry is you get to see the work you put in. So, you take something that's been in an accident or even refreshing the paint job or whatever, you get to at the end of the day see what you've accomplished. So I like that side of it more. So from there, I through schooling started working at a dealership, fixing cars, kind of as an apprentice. I had a mentor that I'd work alongside of. So I was doing a lot of disassembly, reassembly, and some minor things, and then ultimately learning the bigger scope of work while still going through school.
So when you go into that program and because I don't think we really asked this question before when we had some of the Hudson Valley students on, but you go in knowing nothing. What are some of the first things that they teach you and how do you progress down that path throughout the schooling process?
A lot of it is the fundamentals. So it'll be, introduction into suspension, introduction into electrical. So you build a circuit board with, headlights, turn lights, and switches. So you understand how basic electrical work, goes into it. Different types of suspension. So not every car has the same suspension. There's different styles. There's different configurations of whether it's a strut or if it's got, leaf springs. Trucks are different than cars, things like that. So they gave you a original view, like you said, as somebody that doesn't, you're a kid, you don't know all the internal operations of a car. So they kind of give you entry level into every part of it. And then as you continue to learn, it gets more and more hands on, to where you get into they have a quite the big shop there. And part of your scope of work is in the lab. So I'd say before you graduate, it's almost 50-50. 50% of the time you're in the lab, 50% of the time you're in the classroom.
So when you were, I guess, when you were in school, was business ownership ever a goal of yours, or was that something that kind of developed later on?
I think it's always been in the back of my mind. I wouldn't say it was in the forefront. My intent, my thought at the time was to be a technician. I wanted to be a technician for a good amount of years and then possibly eventually go into the office, learn the estimating side of it and get some entry level business information and then potentially maybe business ownership. But ultimately, when I was going through that, my initial goal was just to be a tech, and then I wanted to be the best tech. So I wanted to be able to do everything. I didn't want to be segmented into one, side of the business or the other. I didn't want to be just a painter. I didn't want to be just a frame tech. I didn't want to be, I wanted to be overall the best. Um, and so when I started out, that was my intent. And then that shifted about 2 years, 3 years in, uh, when I was out of college, kind of shifted from being on the floor as a technician into the office faster than I thought I would.
So what I heard you say was that you always wanted to be the best, which is very, very rare, I think, especially in today's society. It's I guess a mental, you know, mental strength, right? Like you don't obviously you being an employer now, I'm sure you would love to have, a dozen folks like that. I guess where does that drive or where did that motivation come from? Was that instilled in you from an early age, or did you develop that over time?
I've never thought about it. I have a little bit of a personality disorder, probably with a touch of OCD, I guess. Very particular on details, things that most people probably wouldn't pick up on, stand out to me. So I think it's more of a perfectionist mentality. And unfortunately, we work in an industry where to reach perfection is very difficult. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different people that are involved in one item. So you can't, you're not going to reach perfection unless you're in like a lab environment where you're restoring cars to a level that took 2 3 years to perfect. Um, but ultimately, that's my expectation every time, is to as close to perfect as we can possibly get. And I think that's something that, similar to what you said, I've mentored a lot of younger students now, being in my early 40s, where that's something that I try to instill in them is, if you're going to do it, you might as well try to do it the best of your ability. Let's not give it, half a shot here, and then you're ending up having to spend more time to try to make it appear better, or, no one, in my opinion, no one shows up to work wanting to do a bad job. I think that they come in with the mindset, or perhaps, past experience where, well, that's good enough. And for me, that doesn't fly. And so once I notice that, so I try to inject myself and try to really raise the bar and say, well, let's just, you know, let's talk about this. Let's get some more questions going. If we did this, that, or the other thing, or if we did these items in a different placement. So if we started here and ended here, would we have got a better result? And really trying to develop the staff to all have that same mentality, where we're always trying to strive to be best.
What are some of the for all the younger folks that do listen to the show, and who are striving to be the best that they can be in the trades, what are some of the intangible skills or some of the things that they can do on a daily basis that will help separate them from the rest of the group and help them to move to, I guess, the overachiever?
I think the advantage today that we didn't have, Derek, is the internet. I noticed with my own kids, they're young, but they know how to use YouTube. So if they're looking, trying to do something and I'm not able to show them or give them attention, before I know it, they talked into the remote and they got a YouTube video up and they're telling me they don't need me to do it. They've already figured it out. So I think that the younger kids have so much information today that's at their fingertips, that perhaps it's not between the hours of 8 and 4 when they're punched in on the clock, but when they go home and while they're eating dinner, they could be watching a video on whether it's plumbing, heating, cooling, whatever their trade is, and learn things to get better. You and I have discussed being a landlord. Doesn't have anything to do with the podcast, but very similar. If if you're paying everybody exponentially to do everything that needs to be done to a apartment building, there's not much left for you to have for cash flow. But if you take some time to learn some of these trades, and it could be the most basic thing, taking a toilet out, doing a wax ring, but all these little things add up. And I find that that's the same thing with educating yourself for the younger kids today. Spend some time, doesn't have to be YouTube, but I find that to be, there's a lot of good information on YouTube. And I find myself on there often if there's something that I don't know how to do. And a lot of times it may be in a house project or something, but I'll pick up some tricks and tips from YouTube and then look at that. I did it myself. So there's got to be some self drive, right? You have to be self-motivated. No one's gonna tell you to go home on your own time and, um, pick up YouTube or whatever it may be to educate yourself. But I think you found yourself when you started your business, and similar for me. I spent there was no punch clock, right? It was, I did my job, and then when I went home, I found other ways to do things to make myself better. And so ultimately, I think that that's what the today's students, they have that leaps and bounds over you and me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's very good advice. I actually just went through that this week. We're doing a window cleaning project actually this weekend, that something we haven't done before. It's a little bit of a challenge, and I tasked our team with coming up with the solution. And turns out after some fumbling around, that we already have the solution that's sitting here in our warehouse. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it took a little bit of encouraging and me, pushing to go and learn how to do that and how to get it
Mhm.
done the best way possible. But again, all off of YouTube and the resources that are available out there. So
Yeah, and I think that that's for any trade, and even for somebody that just wants to dabble in something, there's so much information that you can find now that's free that, I wanna date myself, but I don't think we really had much internet, even when I was at Hudson Valley. It may have been just becoming a thing or a little bit maybe, you could probably I don't know if Google was available at the time. It was probably more, the first things that came out of the internet. So, today's student, I think if they apply themselves on their own time, and I'm not, you know, I don't punch in and I don't punch out. There's not, and I'm no different than you. Um, but that's what made me different is, you know, putting in the time and the effort that no one sees, right? Um, it's the quiet growth. It's the growth you're doing when no one's watching you and when no one's, asking you to do something. And then little by little over time, they're like, geez, Derek seems different. He's now off doing, whatever. But meanwhile, you're investing in all that time on your own. And so I think that those are vital really to the blue collar um, to become you want to be the best, but you want to be always striving to be, better today than yesterday.
yeah, and I think that also ties into, we've had a couple of guests on the show that have been, pretty open and honest about, some have gone to college, some have not gone to college. And I think that sometimes is the common misconception of, oh, I'll go to college, I'll have this piece of paper and I'm done. I have all the skills that I need. And in reality, the journey is just starting. College
Yeah.
taught me how to keep learning. And,
Right.
it's not the end, it's just the beginning. But
Yeah. And for us, college isn't so much necessary to learn this trade either, but it like similar to what you said, it gives you a good advantage, gives you more information at a shorter period of time. But also, my 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 father was someone that didn't graduate from high school, right? So he dropped out when he was 10th grade. So I think for him it was more he wanted me to go to college because he never even finished high school. So for that aspect, college was something that I planned on. I have to do it. Dad wants me to do it. Um, and luckily for us, Hudson Valley is right around the corner. It's not like I had to go away. Because if I wasn't the type of person that probably would have went away to college.
yeah, we have an amazing resource right here in our backyard. So we're certainly fortunate for Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
So fast forward now, you do all the right things, you learn on your own. Where are you today?
So today I'm the owner of Lazzaro's Autobody in Green Island, New York. Purchased that in March of last year. Took over a 50-year business. So Joe has been in business 50 years here. Did a great job, but he's getting up in age and doesn't have family. No children of his own. And so ultimately, we were able to come up with a deal, and I was able to purchase his business, um, as is turnkey. So, um, started in March. It's actually this week is a full year for us, um, and have been able to dial it into different things that I'm used to. Right. So I think each shop probably has their own dynamic and has their own way of getting things done. Ultimately, I put my own spin on it. Um, Organization just to make it easy on myself, right? So it doesn't mean that what they were doing was wrong. It was just not how I did it. So brought in my own systems, um, have everything, up and running. And so far, it's been excellent. It's been better than expected.
So obviously that's a huge undertaking, going into a business that's already existing, working with, I'm assuming, the people that are already there,
Yeah.
but then also, bringing in your own flavor to it, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
How did you balance the fieldwork component and still keeping a handle on that, but also dealing with the leadership side of things and creating the culture and the strategy for all of those people to operate that's now under your leadership. How do you balance those two things? Because it's got to be a lot, especially at first.
Well, I definitely have less hair than I started with a year ago.
It looks a little grayer, Josh.
I say that's wisdom sprinkled in there.
That's right.
Um, the, you know, I don't know how I did it either because I'll tell you in the moment, it felt like, uh, weeks felt like, months. It was almost like everything happening so fast and I was nervous also because it was my first time purchasing a business and taking it over on my own. I had experience obviously, but it was with other people's money. This was my money. So ultimately, I really, I took some of the experience I had from building other businesses, but kind of I took a back seat, to be honest. I think sometimes when you come in headstrong and you try to push your way through things, you meet a lot of resistance. I more or less took a back seat and kind of let the operation run. I'd say the first month at least, um, with very little involvement. It was more, or it may have appeared as less involvement. It was more observation. I was really trying to look and see how they were doing it without me being there. And then ultimately looking at the holes or opportunities that I could see where I could implement different things to change the end product, or make it easier, or have better ways of making sure you're capturing all of the revenue on an estimate, right? So a lot of times what we do is a lot of negotiation with insurance companies, but without good information, you're arguing or trying to negotiate over something that most people would fail at. So the process that I was used to, I implemented, which gave me a little bit more of an advantage to start pursuing better claim handling, processing cars better, faster. So getting the customer their car back faster helps the phone from ringing, right? So there's little things that people don't realize are happening, um, because they're missing, the big picture. Whereas I came in, took a back seat, kind of wanted to figure out big picture and watch it develop, and then it started from the other side, fill in the holes and fixing things to where the stress level come down on most of the staff, right? Because they may have been doing the same thing 2, 3, 4 times when there was a way to do it from the beginning. They were just skipping that step. Um, to where slowly but surely throughout the year, we got it dialed in pretty well. And I still have the same staff that they had when we started, right? So I didn't lose anybody. I actually added to it. Um, but I find it to be a success talking to you today that I was able to come in here with somebody, a business that's been operating for 5 decades without me, bring in my ideas, change things, but yet still keep the same people employed, the same culture, and then ultimately, um, the same faces when prior customers come in, see the same people.
So you're a big process guy, and I know we talked a lot about that the last time you were on the show. What or how did you approach that with people who are just meeting you or only knowing you for a handful of months? How did you create those processes and roll them out to the team? Did you ask for input? We've been talking a lot about this with Bill on our lab episodes with process creation and development, and every business is a little bit different with that. I'd be interested in hear what your take is and how you approach that, and then get the team to follow those processes.
Hey, everybody, just taking a quick break to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Curtis Lumber. Curtis Lumber is the professional's choice for home improvement. From windows and doors, roofing and siding, decks and building packages, to floors and more, trust the pros at Curtis Lumber for expert advice and daily delivery. For locations, visit curtislumber.com. That's curtislumber.com.
I'd be interested to
Right.
hear what your take is and how you approach that and then get the team to follow those processes.
I think a lot is just open communication, and you have to be willing to have egg on your face too, because you may implement something and think, well, I've done this before and this is the way it's best executed. And then someone new enters the room and they have a different perspective on it. And then you're like, well, you know what? Makes sense. Or, you ask somebody, why have you always been doing it this way? I'm just curious for my own, ask them, and then they explain to you why they've been doing it that way. And then you can, from that perspective, put a twist on it and say, well, if have you ever thought about, X, Y, Z? No, I haven't. Well, let's try it and let's just see what happens. And so a lot of it was, you know, from a leader perspective, you have to get buy-in. Right. I don't care who you are or what badge you wear, and people can yes you to death behind your back. You have to earn earn your keep. So I think a lot of what I was doing was having good conversation, showing them things, and then following up on it and make sure that, not only were they listening, but they understood that, okay, yeah, now I get it. That's why we're doing it. We're doing it because the outcome over here is better. Something as simple as pre-washing a car, right? So cars come in and prior to me here, let's just say they weren't pre-washing cars, right? But then the car gets through the refinish portion and the paint job is dirty. So paint job is dirty. Now you have to put more time into the paint job because there's dirt in the paint. So there's ways of removing it. You sand it out, you buff it, you polish it, and then it goes, through the process. But if you pre-cleaned cars, so if the car when it first comes in the door is washed thoroughly, inside the wheel liners, the underneath the hood, all the area, the gaps in the doors, things like that. You go through it thoroughly up front, you may spend 25 minutes. But then when it goes through the shop's cleaner, the technicians that are working on it are cleaner. It goes through the paint department, doesn't have all the dirt on it. So you have a better chance at a more pure outcome from one simple step in the beginning, right? So the guy that was buffing the cars was also the guy that was cleaning the cars. So for him, you're going to make me clean more cars. No, I'm not. It's the same cars. You're going to spend less time because then we're not going to be needing to wet sand and buff as many vehicles. And as that was able to be rolled out and then proof in the pudding, right? The cars were coming out cleaner, and maybe he had a speck of dirt here or there, but it was a much less involved, something that would take 5 to 10 minutes versus 25 to 45 minutes. So he started to see, You're right. So, that in itself made a much more thorough, my explanation from the beginning was pre-clean the car, clean the wheels, clean the wheel liners, door jambs. He took it a step further only because he saw that little shift, that little change made such a big improvement that he was now not just cleaning it, he was also drying it off and making, reading an estimate to say, oh, we're going to work on this area. Let me make sure I really thoroughly clean, degrease, do other steps ahead of time to make the downstream process faster.
Such a sounds very simple. Me not knowing anything about, that trade, it seems like that's a very simple implementation. And it makes a lot of sense. Um, I had no idea that that was the case, so that's very, very interesting. Um, so when you're with the retention, I think do you feel as though there's a culture component to what you brought to the business that has kept these guys, or is the process piece all tied into that?
I think a lot of it is the process piece because most people want easy, right? They want something that it's pure, it's easy to understand, and they don't want resistance. And once you bring a process in, as long as it makes sense. Now, if you bring a process in that makes things worse, well, then you're going to be having more meetings, more conversation. But as long as what you're doing is improving their daily environment and they're able to perform and get, a lot of these guys are what's called flat rate, so it's piecework, right? So they get paid by the job, not by the hour. So those guys, of course, want efficiency, right? They don't want wasted time, wasted steps either, because the more time that they waste, that's not on an estimate, the less money they make. So the I think overall the process piece is what was able to secure the culture, right? So it was buy-in, but then also, I don't know, it sounds weird, but almost like the stress came out of the room, right? It was a much easier environment. We were able to kid around, joke around, not be so tense because there were so many problems. I think we always look to eliminate problems, right? So, of course, no one's perfect. So daily we have problems, but if every day we come in and we try to eliminate one, right? Over a year of time, that's a lot of problems you've solved or come close to solving. So that's the mentality I bring every day with everyone. And my uh, leadership staff that's up front now, has that same mentality to where, you know, how can we improve if we do have a failure, or when we do have a failure, we're not perfect. Okay. What steps did we skip, or how do we get here? How do we avoid this the next time? Right. And it's always, like you and I have discussed privately before, not easy to have them conversations with people. You got people that you uh entrust in your team, and want them to be able to do their own job, right? So they're often running on their own, but yet you and you and them have to have those tough conversations sometimes where, hey, I understand. However, we should have followed through with, let's go back, start at this step. And then, yep, we did. We got sloppy on this, you know, section of it, which created the downstream issue. Now we have to repaint something, or whatever the case may be.
So you mentioned that you've added to your team since you've been there. What are some of the characteristics, or what do you look for when you are hiring in today's job market?
So for me, luckily I have some of the guys that I've worked with in the past that have joined me here, which has been an advantage because we already know each other. But I'd say, looking to hire from the outside, I'm looking for self starters, somebody that, common sense. It should be termed something else because it's not common. But I'd like to have show some common understanding of most things. You could just have a simple conversation really, and pick up on if someone's got some motivation behind them, or if they want to do better. And I think similar, go back to the early conversation with every day coming in and wanting to be the best. I want the same thing for anyone that's coming in, whether you're entry level or someone that comes in with some experience. I want you to come in knowing that we're going to together every day work on being even better, or doing something different, right? We don't want to just take you in and say, well, this is your job and I'll see you in 20 years, right? I think that every day we should both be looking to improve, and whether they're looking to help improve me or improve themselves, try something new, be a player on a different team, so in the shop here, there's body techs, there's painters, there's intermediates, there's, some guys that take cars apart. Well, maybe they want to go and learn skill set in a different department a little bit. Someone that's always looking, for me, it's something that's looking for a future, not for a job. I think that trying to hire someone for a job, there's plenty of candidates out there. Trying to hire someone that's looking to build a future with you is, you know, from my perspective, that's who I'm looking for. So I think when we sit down to do interviews, I kind of, I don't have a format, but I like to say I try to pull out of them some questions to make me, you know, understand where they're coming from, and really make sure that there's somebody that's not just looking to fulfill something for today. And then once they get that, they're off and running to someone else. I want somebody that's looking to be on our team and improve with us for years and years to come.
What are some of the habits and routines that you guys deploy in your business currently that help you yourself or your employees deploy that help you guys stay sharp and reliable?
There is a lot of continuing education. So there's industry training. It's called iCar, but it's the most known, outside of doing whether it's, college or, some of the stuff you may see online for automotive trades. Um, it's continuing education. There's maintaining a certain amount of classes per year. So it's credited hours. All of my guys are enrolled in that. The shop itself, when I first started, didn't have any of that. There was no enrollment. There was no one that was partaking in it. So everyone here I've signed up. And we've achieved gold class. That's as high as you can go for a shop, but each person on an individual basis can reach platinum level. So, we've done some of that. Also, the cars today, each car is different and the manufacturer can change a replacement procedure on a structural piece overnight. So we have access to live data. Some of it's on all data collision, some of it's directly to the manufacturer, where we're, reviewing procedures and instructions, on how the manufacturer wants something completed before we go and opening up the car and then finding out, later. So a lot of it is pre-gaming, getting prepared for the task ahead of us. And that's, from a educational perspective, that's kind of most of what we do, to keep our tools sharp. And then, also always trying new things. I don't know if I think we touched on this a little bit ago, but trying to do something like you said, your window job that you haven't done before, right? We have a good contract here with a big site development group, and they sent us an email of a massive hood on like a Kenworth. This is huge. The hood's probably 15-foot long, 8-foot high, and they said, "Can you fix this?" And so my team grabs me. They're like, "Look at this. Can we fix this?" I was like, "I don't know. Let's try it. How do we?" Don't know until we try, right? So I did some research, found out what it's made of. Couple of the braces that they showed us in the picture you can purchase separate. So, you know, none of my guys here have done this before. So it's new to all of us, right? Self included. But it's a hood, so it's not something that, worst case scenario, we don't do it right, we can buy a hood, right? But ultimately, we're gonna do our best to straighten this out for the company. But also it's a learning experience for us, right? And you can't be shy of trying new things. So I think, also having that mentality is also sharpening our tool, right? I'm always I'd like to be at some point the guy that everybody calls for everything. If it's paint related or automotive related, I'm the guy. That's ultimately my futuristic outlook on me. I want to have a facility and the ability to be able to do anything, whether it's trucks, trailers, motorcycles, hot rods, today's modern car or a muscle car. I want to be able to do it all. To do that, Derek, I got to educate myself too, because there's a lot of things actually I don't know, but I'm willing to learn and willing to try to showcase our talents.
You just answered the last question I was gonna ask you, which is awesome. I was going to ask you what the future looks like for your business and where's the company going next. So,
Yeah. So, I bought Lazzaro's here in March. Um, Fast forward, I was at the same time, um, I had a local dealership reach out to me they were looking for a consultant to review their shop, and they didn't know that I had just purchased a shop. So anyways, long story short, I met them. They wanted me to consult and try to bring their shop to the next level. Ultimately, it wasn't a fit for me at the time. I just, literally just started here at Lazzaro's. But the conversation stayed open and we kept talking, and it led to me purchasing that shop in August. So August of 25, I purchased another shop in Saratoga. So currently we have two shops, um, both stay under the same name. Obviously under my leadership now. The shop is upstate in Saratoga, and And currently I'm talking to someone else in another automotive shop to expand, but it's something that, I'm not that's not my goal. My goal is not to just keep expanding. My goal is to find things that I feel that fit right with me. This seems to be the right fit and something that I'm also interested in. It's got a little bit of a different flavor than what I'm used to. So I want to try to push myself. So it's something that is a little bit of a challenge for me if it's something that I could do. And I feel like that's what I need right now. Not that starting a new business isn't challenging, but I think that you have to always wake up every day with a burning in your stomach to just keep going and being stronger, better than the day before. And some of that may be taking risks. Um, and so I'm working on that. We'll see how that goes. If it does, then I'll be more edging myself towards the future me, which is the ability to be the guy that you call for anything. So you get into different sectors in your business with vans or trucks or big equipment or even a fire truck. There's not a thing that planes, what's that saying there? Planes, trains, and automobiles. I don't know if I can get a train in there, but I do want to be that guy that can do just about anything.
So you purchased two businesses all within 6 months of each other?
Yep. Yeah.
No wonder you have gray hair.
And I'm not trying hard enough.
Josh,
Could have done more.
that's incredible, man. I think that's a great place to transition here to our blueprint section. So everybody, if you're not a member yet, join our Patreon side of the show. We're going to ask Josh some rapid fire questions here about his journey and how he does this. Obviously, you just heard purchasing two businesses here within 6 months is pretty incredible. So thank you all for joining us. And Josh, thank you. And we'll see you on the Patreon side.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, 5 Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, The Michaels Group, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peoplease, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible. And thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.